G'day guys, and welcome back to the third annual Towns Bowie Buildoff. Apologies for the change in audio quality. Unfortunately, the microphone that I was using before actually corrupted all of the audio, so I'm re-recording this at midnight. But, with that being said, let's look at the prizes for this year's competition. Now, for the main competition, the main first three prizes, if you come first, if you are the person that wins the overall competition, you will be getting a custom set of hand-forged tongs from yours truly. I will forge a set of tongs, whether they be box jaws, bolt jaws, flat jaws, wolf jaws, whatever you like. I'll be marking them with my name, and then I'll be sending them to you free of charge. If you get second place, you will be getting a copy of Practical Blacksmithing as annotated by our good friend Adam at Speargrass Forge. Adam has spent the last couple of years annotating and reworking Practical Blacksmithing to become a unified structure of blacksmith learning for everyone to use. And honestly, I am super psyched to be able to get this out to the public. This is going to be the first run of this specific run of books. So this is going to be amazing for anyone to add to their library. I'm looking forward to adding one to my library as well. So, an amazing opportunity, and thank you, Adam. And if you get third place, you'll be receiving 3 bars of non-ferrous metal. They are 20 mil by 150 mil, or 3/4 of an inch by 6 inches, and they are bronze, brass, and copper, all 3 of them. So, they will be an amazing addition to any shop. You can forge the copper really easily into anything you want, and both the bronze and brass can either be recast or cut into slabs for using for guards or bolsters or anything like that. So, an amazing list of prizes for the main competition. Let's take a look at the beginner's bracket. Now, in the past 2 build-offs, I've had the great pleasure of having many beginner knife makers get their feet wet in the competition, and this year I decided that I would have a 3-place competition winner prize pool for the beginner bracket, and this is made possible by a couple of great people who are actually donating prizes for this pool. So if you win first prize in the beginner bracket, you will be getting the brand new and updated Nordic Edge file guide. It, I think, is version 5.0 now, and honestly, Nordic Edge are sponsors of so many different competitions, including the Towns Bowie Buildoff, all 3 years that we've run, and they make probably the best file guides in the business. So this will be an amazing piece of kit to add to your toolbox. Everyone should have a file guide, and I reckon everyone should have a Nordic Edge file guide. If you want to go check them out, you can check them out at nordicedge.com.au, and you can find all kinds of bladesmithing stuff, including grinders, power hammers, steel, and file guides. If you win second place, you too will win a copy of Practical Blacksmithing as annotated by Adam at Speargrass Forge. Again, thank you, Adam, for donating 2 copies of this amazing book that you've annotated for us. And third place, you will be getting a stabilized block of hardwood, and it will be from my private selection. I have a vast variety of stabilized handle materials, and I will select one that I will send out to you, and you'll be able to build something amazing with it. So I think these are all great prizes for a beginner, or even someone more experienced. Now, to enter into the beginner's bracket, you have to have either less than 2 years of experience in the industry, or have made less than 5 knives. So if you've been a blacksmith for a while but you've only made 5 knives, you still qualify. But you have to provide proof that you either have less than 2 years of experience or that you've only made 5 knives. If you can't prove that, if there is evidence to the contrary, then you cannot enter the beginner's bracket. You will have to go into the main pool. As with every year, there will also be a Viewer's Choice Award. Now, the Viewer's Choice Award will be selected by the viewers at the end of the competition. So at November 1st, I will upload a video, or November 2nd technically, I will upload a video of all of the winners and all of the entrants, and at the end there will be a slideshow of all of the entrants with numbers attached to each knife. You will vote for your favorite knife, and that person, after a week, will then receive 2 stabilized sets of hardwood handle scales, either burl or some form of curled handle wood that I have received from Ryan at Otway Fiddleback in the past. So I will be putting those in a box and sending them to you if you win the Viewer's Choice Award. And anyone can win the Viewer's Choice Award, whether it be a beginner or in the main pool. So even if you don't win one of the main 6 prizes, you have a chance at winning this. I figured I'd take a moment here after I've discussed the prizes to discuss something else that I've been asked a few times, which is why the build-off? Why host this specific build-off? What is it about Bowie knives? What is it about anything like that? The answer is really simple. I love this community. I think that this community, the blacksmithing and bladesmithing community, is one of the best communities on the planet. And one of the greatest things that I love about this community is our sense of competition, but also our sense of community, our sense of friendship, and our, co-authored sense of pride at creation. And the build-off is literally my way of incentivizing people to get out into their workshops and make something that maybe they're not familiar with, or make something that they haven't tried before, really push themselves, or even if you've never made a knife before, to incentivize you to try, to just give it a shot. To hell with it, give it a go, and maybe you'll win something, maybe you won't. But the whole thing is about the experience. It's about the journey, not the destination. Now, yes, there are prizes, but those prizes are literally there just to incentivize you to give it a shot. Because at the end of the day, all I want to see is people engaging with this community, giving things a try, making some cool knives. And yeah, I love Bowie knives, so I love seeing more Bowie knives in the world. But yeah, at the end of the day, the reason this build-off exists is because I want this community to thrive, and I want to see this community engage with each other. This is the opportunity for us to showcase what we're capable of, but also share our knowledge with each other and share our design passions with each other. So honestly, this is just an opportunity for us all to enjoy the craft of knife making. To simplify things this year, the parameters for both the main and the beginners competition will be the same, except for one key point, which we'll get to later. But for both the beginner and the main competition, the blade must be greater than 8 inches in length, and this is from tip to heel, not from tip to the front of the guard as it has been in previous years. This is the full sharpened edge needs to be beyond 8 inches. So from the heel to the tip, the sharpened edge must be greater than 8 inches in length. It must have a defined ricasso. Now, it doesn't have to have a step down edge like you see in many Bowies, although that is one way to do it, but it has to have a defined, unsharpened area in front of the guard, behind the blade. It doesn't have a required length, but obviously you want to have it defined, so it needs to be easily visible on the design. It has to have a clip or swedge point that is 1/3 the blade's length at least, that is either harpoon, straight clip, curved clip, but it must be beveled in some way. So it has to be either double beveled or chisel ground. It does not have to be sharp, and check your local laws on whether or not both being sharpened is legal, both the clip and the main edge. But in either way, there has to be a clip or swedge point on the Bowie in order for it to classify as a Bowie in this competition. And last but not least, of course, it has to have either a guard or a bolster. Now, it doesn't have to necessarily have quillins, it doesn't necessarily have to have anything that prevents your hand from going out the blade. You can make something like a Searles Bowie. It can be peened onto a full tang, it can be fitted like a normal through tang, it can be soldered on or forged integrally, but it must have some form of guard or bolster. Now, these, again, are for both the beginner's bracket and the main competition. So make sure that your blade fits all of these criteria. You all knew it was coming. There is always a wrench to throw into the works. This year, the main competition's wrench is the HAMON. I want to mix a little bit of East and West, as I am wont to do, and I also want to even the playing field a little bit, because in previous years, there have been those that have access to forged machinery like power hammers and presses, and those that don't. And in many cases, that means the difference between a high-level mosaic and someone who has to use monosteel. So in order to even the playing field, I instead have chosen that you must have a HAMON on your blade. Now, the HAMON doesn't need to be wavy, it doesn't need to necessarily follow the clip. It can be a straight line, it can be just a hardened, like a hardening line, a straight hardening line, but the clarification is that it must be visible and it must be intentional. You can do an interrupted water quench, you can do clay, you can do whatever you like, but it has to be etched, it has to be visible, and it has to be part of the design. You don't want to just slap a HAMON on something, it has to flow with the design really well. If you do a tactical stone-washed Bowie with a Japanese style HAMON on it, if you aren't careful about how you polish it and how you present it, it will look completely out of place. So make sure that the HAMON fits with the design that you are making, because that will be part of what I judge on as well. Now, obviously, in order to etch the HAMON, you can do a traditional etch like I normally do, or something semi-traditional like what I do, or you can do something like Jabil Knives does, or anything like that. You can present it as much as you like or as little as you like, but it must be visible on the finished product. As with last year's entries, the entries will be submitted to an email, and they will be submitted in the form of a minimum of 3 photos, and I say minimum. Now, the minimum of 3 photos must include a full profile shot with a ruler in frame that is legible. I need to be able to see that you have met the size requirements for the competition. And try not to leave it to margins, because the smaller the margin, the more likely I am to think maybe that's not within margin. The second shot must be from the tip down the side of the knife towards the guard, right, towards the handle. I want to see the full blade, but I want to see it from tip to handle. And then I want to see the last one from the butt, including the back plate or the butt of the knife, towards the tip, including the full length of the tip. The more photos you give me, the better, right? If you give me a ricasso shot down the ricasso so I can see your plunge cuts, if you give me a down the spine shot, including the handle so I can see that your blade and handle are aligned, if you give me a down the edge shot so that I can see that your edge is straight and does not curve or wiggle, the more shots you give me, the more likely I am to be able to judge your piece accurately. If you don't provide clear and well-lit photos, and this is really important, guys, these 3 need to be clear. They need to be well presented, because remember, these photos are going to be shown in the final slideshow in the winner's video, which will then go on to be the Viewer's Choice Award photos. So make sure that shots you're taking are pretty and clear and well shot, because the better they are, the more likely I am to be able to give you a good score. And that being said, these 3, you may want to send an extra one that is your display photo that I will put in the slideshow. So make sure that you're taking really nice shots, because the better shots you have, the more likely I am to judge you highly. Due to some issues I suffered with the emails last year, I have made a custom email for the Bowie Buildoff competition. This year, all entries need to be sent to townsbowiebuildoff@gmail.com. It is all one word, @gmail.com. If your entry is not sent to this email by 12 p.m. November 1st, then you do not have an entry in the competition. This is really important, because I had a couple people who didn't send in their entries. They sent them to me on Instagram or to a different email. If you do not send to townsbowiebuildoff@gmail.com by November 1st, 12 p.m. Australian Western Standard Time, then you do not have an entry. This is to prevent any kind of issues surrounding people entering and me not seeing it or losing those emails. So this email will only be used for the Bowie Buildoff. Do not send me anything else to this email address. If you need to address something else with my business, then you can send them to soundtownsbladesmith@gmail.com. But for the Buildoff, townsbowiebuildoff@gmail.com. It's really easy to remember because it's the name of the competition. Finally, I want to say a massive thank you to a few people. First of all, Björn at Nordic Edge. the wonderful people at Nordic Edge have sponsored the Bowie Buildoff all 3 years that it's run. I said this before, but I'll say it again. They are fantastic people, and they are such supporters of the knife making and blacksmith community here in Australia and abroad. So if you want to follow them, you can follow them at nordic.edge on Instagram, or you check out their website, nordicedge.com.au, and get yourself some really good stuff. Second is my mate Adam at Speargrass Forge for donating his wonderful work of his practical blacksmithing books. I know how much work he's put in to those things, and honestly, I am very thankful that he's taken the time to donate 2 of them to the community here and the competition. And lastly, I'd like to thank you. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for entering into the competition if you're entering. And if you're not entering, please support those who are entering this competition. Let them know that you appreciate the efforts that they're going to. Let them know that you appreciate the community that we have built. And honestly, without you guys entering the competition, without you guys watching the competition and supporting those people who are competing, this kind of stuff wouldn't happen. So thank you very much to you guys. But last of all, I would like to say thank you to the incredibly special people of my Patreon. The patrons of my Patreon have been the most kind and patient and caring people in the last year that I have known. Honestly, in the last year, I haven't uploaded anything. The last video I uploaded was the announcement of the winners of the Bowie Buildoff. So in the last year, despite the fact that there has been a lack of content, these people have supported me through all of that and have continued to encourage me to get better, and are still here when I'm getting back on my feet and finally starting to recreate content again. So without them, I would not be where I am right now. And I have to say a massive thank you to each and every one of them for supporting me through this last year. And hopefully now that we're heading on a new trajectory, things are looking up. But thank you guys so much for supporting me. And here's to a better year. Now, get out there, light your forges, and let's see some cool knives.